Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the Daily Fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebes or plebs. Joining us today, fellow Bitcoin plebs, we've got Texas Slim, and we've got return guest Shishi. But right now, we're diving into the numbers. Let's do it.
Number time! Number Time is brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference ever. Take advantage of the link down below for 10% off to your ticket to Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 710,475. The Bitcoin price, 58,080.
Fuck you, Dennis!
Chain rewrite days, 756. Total public lightning capacity, 3,243.45. Moscow time, 1722. And blocks to the halvening, 129,525. Nico, is that a new all-time high on the public lightning capacity or not? Because I feel like this is the same number as yesterday.
I think it might, but you know what? It is an all-time high on the block height, and that's what's important.
But still, the 58K gang is ruining this for us.
Yeah, I'm
just saying.
I'm really upset with Dennis. I sent him a DM today. I said, "Fuck you." You know.
How long ago did he call this?
I unfollowed him. No, I'm just kidding.
Awful.
I love you, Dennis. The legend. This is legendary meme stat. You're solidifying yourself in Bitcoin history right now. He called it. He nailed it. But anyways, okay. Phil, we have some spicy numbers.
Okay, you know what? We have some. I think this is some hopium.
It's not as intense as yesterday, though.
It's definitely not as intense, right? It's not as intense as Glassnode Hopium, okay? But it's pretty good, okay? So this is essentially a chart, right, of the public Lightning Network capacity, and this shows the time frame from when El Salvador made it legal tender.
Ooh.
And yeah, so take a look at that incline, okay? We were at less than 2,500. We were at less than 2,500 BTC on the public Lightning capacity, and now look at how high we are. So that's. I mean, look. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's not the brand of hopium that people are used to. But at the same time, if you ask me, you know, while we're seeing this noise of the fiat price bouncing up and down, we're seeing the Lightning Network grow legs.
Dude, I think that is the most bullish hopium ever, and for one reason, right? That's El Salvador, and El Salvador is a very small country, right? Imagine, right? You have a bigger Latin American country follow suit. Like, what's the Lightning Network capacity going to do then, right? I think that's like a proof of concept, to be honest. Anyways, Shishi, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's the only brand of hopium that I like because the Glassnode stuff is just boring and like hit or miss. I think that's like way better signal. And I just remember, you know, when I got into Bitcoin and I saw the Lightning Network capacity, it was kind of like completely a joke. And everyone's like, just wait. You know, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, and it's impressive. It's like super impressive. Because it's just a bunch of ragtag individuals with Raspberry Pis, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's a $50 computer. And you're like, okay, like you're literally decentralizing finance for an entire country. And obviously, like they run on some private routing nodes and stuff that Strike has and stuff. But just to see the public nodes go up is definitely like super bullish. It's the best type of hopium. Fuck the Glassnode shillers. They're so much noise.
That's some signal right there. And I just got to say, Shishi at the beach, incredible. Like, the wind is just cut out of his audio. Like, he must have a special mic. But I'm going to transfer it to Texas Slim, live from Texas. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to agree with Shishi here because the signal is very hopium. I see a big algorithm starting to be developed here that a lot of people don't understand algorithms. We look at Lightning, we look at El Salvador, we look at even the Oshi app, you know, how I'm bringing in the Texas Beef Initiative. There's all kinds of little Lightning things that are going on that are pretty cool. So El Salvador's, I think they're having dinner with the president tonight too, right?
Ooh. Man.
Yes, they are. So, they're wrapping up down there. So there's been a lot of signal coming out of El Salvador. So I think we our algorithm is getting stronger. And, I didn't even know you guys personally just a couple of days ago. So something's happening here. So I'm very, very much on the hopium wagon.
Bullish.
Texas and El Salvador are Bitcoin country. Now we just have to conquer the rest of the world. Slowly but surely. But anyways, Phil, it's time for
the Daily Fail. Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. It's Bitcoin made easy. It's the easiest way to invest in Bitcoin. The link is down below. All right, it's the end of the week. I'm tired, but we're still going to have to hear what Yellow is going on about. Yellow?
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
All right, guys, we don't have long fails today. These are nice, short, epic fails, but we're going to dive into them because it's funny. And it's the end of the week and we want to laugh a little. All right, CoffeeZilla, who I love watching, right? He is awesome, fellow YouTuber. This guy totally dumps on the shit coins and destroys their narratives as well. Okay, so he did a story on Logan Paul, right? Which you can check out on his channel. And this is a tweet of his. This is interesting, right? Remember when Logan Paul dropped 600K on an NFT and it's now worth $4,000? That's a loss of more than 99%. Now, a lot of people sit there and are going to say, oh, but that's just one thing. Let me tell you something. For those of us who went through 2017, minus 99% is the norm. It's not the exception. That is what's coming. Let's take a look at these screenshots. All right, just dropped 188 ETH, right, on this one of one Bumblebee. Good for you. And let's go take a look at what the highest offer is right now for it. There you go, $4,000.
1 ETH.
Okay, so that's so we've got that. Anybody have any comments before we move to the next part of the fail?
Yeah, I do. I'll jump in really quick. Probably nothing. He was right. He did it. Probably nothing. He wrote that, like in his tweet, and he was right.
It's true.
So I mean, never doubt the stupidity of a fiat mindset, dude, because he just wanted to donate, I guess, to some money launderer a few $100,000. You know,
Absolutely. And I would even go to say that they might have given him that, right? And that might have been subjective value, right? That like they might have gifted him that and said that is worth $600,000 to kind of incentivize, forgive the word, other idiots to buy these. What was it that Adam Back said, Phil? Copy of JPEGs? I forget what he said.
Oh my gosh.
Was really good.
No, he essentially what was it, like shitcoins? What is it, like shitcoins or shitcoins are NFTs without the JPEGs?
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. But it was he had paraphrased somebody else who did the original tweet, which we're totally screwing up because we don't remember the original poster and we apologize. But that's an epic tweet.
Yeah, it really is. What are your thoughts on this Texas Slim?
I think it was insider rent-seeking cuck behavior is what it was. So that's all that needs to be said on that. So whatever it was freaking nefarious and it was rent-seeking. So,
man,
you know what? Oh, go ahead, Nico.
I freaking love Texas. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, we're gonna move on to the next fail because we've got a few of them today, right? So check this one out, right? We got tagged a few times. We're going to use Mr. Robot's tweet, but we're also going to use. See, Nico provided us some extra good information on this. Let's check this out. He's retweeting Matt Odell, right, from Tales from the Crypt. Bitcoin prioritizes uptime in adversarial environments. Shitcoins do not. Because we've got Solana Labs CEO saying it doesn't really matter if the network goes down again. So I want people to really think about that as they pour their hard-earned value and time into this shitcoin that's being pumped by the biggest shitcoiners in the space. Just saying, okay? People are getting paid a lot of money to shill this crap. And on the heels of that comment, we're going to go take a look at something Nico provided for us that he got. Let's read Nico's tweets. Just got this. Great example of how shitcoins work. They get companies to partner with them to scam people into thinking they are legitimate. Mind you, I'm sure they would offer me compensation for my soul. What should I respond to this garbage? And let's take a look here at what Nico's showing. So here we go. We've got the Solana partnership proposal to BitVolt mining. Look at that. They're very pleased to offer a 2-year partnership proposal pertaining to a new web-scale blockchain projected to be concluded by 2024. And there you go.
Here's the signals down there. Head of growth, Solana Labs. So what does that mean?
They have a marketing department.
Mm-hmm. They want to say, ooh, we partnered up with BitVault. That scam, that shit must be legitimate. And like, I kind of want to tie this in with what we were covering with Logan Paul, right? This is how they work, right? So essentially, I'm sure Logan Paul received that, and then he just said, oh, I bought this, whatever. And then all of Logan's Paul's, all the people that are following him, right, are like, oh, this must be legit, right? Like, I'm a small fish compared to that guy, right? Like Phil and I, we only have like 8,000 to 10,000 followers on Twitter, but it's enough of an influence for the shitcoins to be like, oh, let's get these people so they could legitimize our project. So it's a little bit of inside baseball, right? It's like you have, Odell doing his thing, but at the same time, you're kind of seeing how they operate in the background, right? So anyways, what are your thoughts, Texas Slim?
I'm going to remind everybody of the original shitcoin and the original boom and bust, the .com bust. We had the .com boom. Everybody had a lot of hype, right? Everybody thought they were going to become millionaires because they had a .com. Guess what? Overnight, $1.7 trillion was lost because of the .com boom bust. And so this is going to happen in the shitcoin world. And how that all got to become a boom was marketing partners, people shilling shit that they shouldn't have been shilling, and hype. Everybody remember pets.com with the little freaking puppet? How many billions of dollars was lost on that? So everybody that follows this stuff and is has that rent seeking cuck behavior, get ready, because this is coming.
Absolutely, and it's not only that, it's coming from, believe it or not, it's coming from the regulators. And this is what we were talking about it. If it's not, and Satoshi even said this, right? If it's not sufficiently decentralized, a government could shut it down. I think his own words were, governments are really good at cutting the head off centralized things, but decentralized things are holding their own, right? So I think, DeFi, right, a lot of the NFTs, a lot of the shit coins, they don't have sufficient amount of decentralization. I would even go on a limb and say only Bitcoin really has sufficient amount of decentralization. We know that Ethereum nodes, we've pulled up the receipts so many times. I'm not even going to pull up the picture. No. Go watch the older episodes because we've done it 3 times this week. Ethereum nodes, we know that a large percentage of them run on AWS servers, meaning Ethereum is sponsored by Jeff Bezos. We all know what happened after, the January 6th, whatever. Put the politics aside, I don't care about that. The January 6th, they used that to shut down the app Parler because it was running on AWS servers. What happens if Ethereum gets on the wrong side of the U.S. government, right? Again, it's a weakness and attack vector. What happens if Bitcoin gets on the wrong side of the U.S. government? We already have an example of what happened in China. Miners just migrate somewhere else, right? So that's the beautiful incentives of Bitcoin. But anyway, Shishi, thoughts?
You guys pretty much hit it on the head, but if there's something that I could add, it's just, you said something about decentralized networks and how important they are in terms of having, this great uptime of basically 100%. And I think you've seen 2 networks do that with it's naturally and fair. So you have like the Tor network, which did it, no token, no nothing, but it's like one of the most popular and decentralized apps in the world. And then you have Bitcoin, which did it with a fairness to it, right? There was no private sale to VCs. There was no fiat mindset Cantillon effect in there. Anyone could have mined if they knew about it. And he did put out, a newsletter before he actually started mining, and there was some fairness to it, a lot of fairness to it. It's probably the most fair monetary system ever. And then you have people making cheap knockoffs, and obviously people can make money making cheap knockoffs. The question is are you going to stand for something, or are you going to try to get rich quick? Well, if you want to go and gamble and be a degenerate, you're not my people.
So. Absolutely. And
you know what? Sorry, just to point something out of what Shishi just said, because this is part of the fail, but it's a quick screenshot before we actually wrap up the fail with the final story. Take a look at this. Okay, this was we were tagged in this by I believe it's Carl _ 21 million Ethereum Foundation historical dumping log chart. Okay, so here you go. Exactly what Shishi was just talking about. Okay. This doesn't exist in Bitcoin. This exists in Ethereum. This is part of the policy. This is how it works. This is how the lights stay on. This is how the marketing machine lives. They dump their bags and look at anyways.
Absolutely. And just to kind of comment, just to get, add a little bit more to what Shishi was saying. So what Shishi was describing is the immaculate conception of Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was created, it was created as an experiment, meaning people didn't know that it was going to be assigned value. It was assigned value later on, right? The famous, Pizza story where someone spent 10,000 Bitcoin on 2 Papa John's pizzas, right? But for the first couple months, maybe a year, Bitcoin, Satoshi, and of course, legendary Hal Finney. He was mining at a loss. He was mining these things on his computer using the hashing power on a CPU. How crazy is that? To essentially mine Bitcoins, and it's crazy because the first halving reward, it was 50 Bitcoins every block. Right now, it's down to 6.2. I mean, I think 6.25. Mm-hmm. No, are we down to 3? That's the next halving, right?
That's the next halving. I know. I've made that mistake too.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Are we on?
Right? It's but anyways, what's the last one, Phil? I saw you had another link.
Yes,
a good one.
Yes.
It's the inflation one?
Yes. It's the inflation one. Here we go. All right, we were tagged by fellow Bitcoiner, Toxic Pleb, Top Roller. This is great. The sharp increase in inflation over the past year has blindsided many economists. Almost no one saw it coming.
Okay, hold on. This is a Simply Bitcoin, we fucking told you so moment, okay? We called this in January. We said it. You can literally go to our old videos. We said this was going to happen, and the reason we said it was going to happen is because the record amount of money printing. We showed you the M1 money supply. We showed you the Federal Reserve asset sheet. The amount of money printing is literally, it's never happened before in the history of fiat money in this country. It's literally run away, right? But you could compare it to historical precedent, like what happened in the Roman Empire, right? You could literally draw a line, right, where the prosperity of the Roman Empire and the debasement of the money and how the moral decay of society, especially, it went from the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire and it just started degrading. It's almost if it was directly correlated to how far the money was being disconnected from reality, right? And you could make the same argument of the United States today, right? So anyways, really interesting, but that's some fucking fiat propaganda, Phil. They know it. They're just trying to spin it, bro. They know exactly what they're doing. They knew this was coming.
Unless no one could have predicted it.
Unless they're buying their own bullshit. What are your thoughts, Texas Slim?
Man, I was looking at this about the same time you guys. I was talking to ranchers. And maybe a little bit later, probably December of last year, I knew that shit was coming because the hiking of the manipulation of the beef industry, that it was coming. And if you get a manipulation of beef, you're going to get inflation. That's just a no-brainer. That they've always done this. Any type of animal protein, it's coming. So it's a great bellwether indicator. So they knew, they've known the plan for a long time, just because of the processors, how they're trying to squeeze out the small rancher right now in the United States. So everything was in place, and so they're full of shit. They, just as you said. So it's just, it's so funny to watch this whenever it happens. The roadmap that we already know that's coming. We already see it, and all of a sudden it's almost to where you can predict it on a weekly basis, just like you did with Hilary. So that's coming up in the show. So
it's crazy because this time it's different, and I want to pass this on to Shishi because we have the internet, we have social media, so all of a sudden you have millions of people, like right now, for example, right? We're all in different locations, all in different, literally hundreds of miles away from each other, and we're openly discussing this, right? It was this week, and I sent the video to Phil because I got super excited, and I said, this is the future of media, and it was a live stream of Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, Tim Pool, and Mike Malice. And the amazing part about this video is that they were saying the same things that we're talking about. The only element that they're missing is Bitcoin. But they were talking about, the president's mental capacity, I'll leave it at that. The economy, inflation, the current, uproar in society, I'll leave it at that as well. The sickness and the very sketchy things that are happening there. And they were just having a frank talk, and it was open, and they were saying things that the rest of us are saying. But I think that the mainstream media, I think that they've been operating, right, especially if you look at the last century, the example that I always give is weapons of mass destructions. That ended up being bullshit. But they were able to get away with that because they had a total monopoly of information, but now they're losing it. And not only are they losing the monopoly on information, they're also losing the monopoly on the creation of money, and the state is just reacting viciously. What are your thoughts on that, Shishi?
I mean, whoever didn't see that coming is in their fantasy normie land. I mean, if you just looked at any primary source on any financial data on the country for the last, 5-10 years, it's been like a missile that's flying right at your face. And if you don't see it, well, yeah, your head's going to get blown off, And, working on different farms over the last 5 years, 6 years, farmers all have a disdain for fractional reserve banking and inflation because they feel it more than anybody else in society, because it's like the base level of what people purchase, food, right? And so a lot of their inputs are super sensitive to, and the farm has basically been denuded in a bit where it's not self-sufficient anymore. You have this globalized, supply chain even for farmers. So, any slight change in fuel costs or repair costs or buying new, equipment costs, these things are all felt in a huge way. And even on small farms, and the whole idea of pushing the small rancher out and the small dairy farmer out has been in my opinion, an aim of just big money, big corporations, big government, and just big food in general. But, that's been their plan for a long time, and it's been out in the open for people to see, and they're feeling it now on the things that they really want. So, and a lot of the shelves are empty, even with things that you took for granted that aren't even that important, but they it's striking. I don't know, the new Xbox and PlayStation, nobody can get it, and it's being resold for double the MSRP, just the whole idea of shortages and used cars being worth more. It's just it was so obvious. I mean, it's it's just wild.
You see this as a prelude, right? People find a way to store value. And I want to double back on the farming thing that you said, because I thought it was fascinating. But I kind of have a story about my graphics card, which I have in my PC. I have the 3090, which is the latest and greatest graphics card you can get. And the market price, right? I tried to buy it the moment it came out, but the bots beat me to it. It was $1,500. I bought it for $2,000 on eBay. I didn't mind paying for it. I wanted it. Shishi, you know how much I like this stuff. But the point is that if I sold this graphics card today used on eBay, I could sell it for $3,000. Used. I bought it overpriced for $500 overpriced. And I was like, you know what? I want it. I don't care. And in a normal world, it would depreciate and whatever. But in the clown world that we're in today, it's worth more and it's used. That's crazy. That's insane. Now, I want to go back to this farming thing, and you guys are perfect for this question. Do you think that the centralization of industrial farming, per se, do you think that's because of fiat itself?
I'll let Texas handle that one.
100%. There's no question. at all. I mean, that it's the only reason. It's the only reason we've destroyed our soil. It's the only reason we've destroyed our food. It's the only reason we destroyed our small farmer. It's the only reason we're destroying the small rancher right now. It has none of the, because whenever we devalued the dollar in 1971, when we went off the gold standard, we had to devalue our food. We had to devalue our land. We had to devalue our traditions. We had to devalue our heritage in ways that people really didn't understand until Bitcoin came along in a lot of ways, at least for Bitcoiners. So yes, 100%. And that's what they're trying to do again right now. They are trying to create a one world food group that eliminates our food choices that they have control over, thus controlling our nutrition, our strength, our power, all of the above. And I could talk for 4 days on this, but I'll let Shishi kind of follow up on that one too.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's like 100% of the cause. Farm subsidies are a complete joke. A government doesn't know where to put the subsidies, even if it smacked them in the face. A lot of it's paid to play type of politics. Almost all of it. There's ag gag laws. There's so many things that are just really in place to like limit small farmers. And yeah, if there was a subsidy instead of on big farms, on like investing into like the small farmer as a profession, obviously like you'd see a different world today. But even without subsidies, you see like people going back to the small farmstead. In my opinion, there's going to be a boom in that. It doesn't even need to be most people. It could be 5% of people. We have less than 1% of the population, I think, working in agriculture, and when you outsource things, they always come back to you over time, cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So maybe the first time you start outsourcing, it's all gravy. But then over time, it's like you have to tend to your, that whole saying, you got to tend to your chickens, like when the rooster comes out type of thing, right? Like you actually have to go and check on things. I'm sure anyone who runs a business with employees or who like has done a renovation even in their house, like if you're not there for it, they're going to fuck off, like they're sorry. And they're not going to, they're going to really play with you and they're not going to give you like quality work compared to when you're just like there and checking on it. Right. And I think once you start going back to verifying things, you realize that it's more than just price of food. It's quality, it's health. You have this like denuded quality, which also denudes your health. And like you see cancers, you see different things showing, it's just a symptom of showing you the root cause essentially is the food, so
it's crazy how the base layer. And look, so the reason I asked you about the farming is because Phil and I had a discussion today, right? It's crazy how the base layer of the world is fundamentally broken. It's corrupt, and it affects all aspects of life. You guys see it from the farming level. Shishi, I like to game. What I've noticed in the gaming industry is that the quality of games are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. They're coming out with games that are unfinished. Why is that? Because they can't raise the price every year, but they still have to produce, that quality. So what they do is that they just cut stuff out of the game. So you get more and more unfinished games. And today, Phil, you actually sent me a text message. You told me that you had to buy something. What was it?
Had to get a washer today.
But what was it that you told me about your dad and his washer?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so check this out. Their washing machine, okay, from my parents, I am not kidding you, lasted 27 years. And that's 2 kids, right? That's 4-person family, all of that laundry for that many years. My washer, okay, has 2 people and 2 dogs. And we've had the washer for 6 years. And it completely busted. So it just goes to show you.
Dude, okay, so check this out, right? You're seeing 4 quadrants on your screen right now. You're seeing 2 farmers on the bottom, a gamer, and someone who needed a washing machine. And we've all been affected by broken fucking money. It's affecting everything. And look, this is just a small aspect of it. I'm sure that if you were, you had someone else in another industry, they would tell you, yeah, shit has gotten worse. Fiat sucks, but Bitcoin fixes this anyways, Phil. It's time for the Daily Meme Review. brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. Get yourself a physical copy. There's only 1,000 made per volume. There's copy 300, right? So they're scarce. And check out the new volumes. Is volume 8 and volume 9. It's a different piece of art. Each volume. Get your copy of Citadel 21 today. All right, everybody. So, Clown World. Paul Krugman. By the way, this is the same dude that said that the internet would amount to nothing. That's the history of... He said that the internet wouldn't mean more than a fax machine. Okay, so this fool is also saying, because he's a fool, history says don't panic about inflation. History says the exact fucking opposite of that. History says that every time inflation happens, bad things happen in society, right? And the example that I give is, everyone knows the example of Weimar Republic in Germany. You know what came after that? The fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to bleep that out. So after hyperinflation in Germany, really bad people got into power in Germany because of how desperate the people were. So I think history says the opposite. Anyways, moving next meme. This is what we're gonna talk about today. What Alex Jones calls her, the demon lady. Anyways, let's move on to the meme. Central bank debases currency, fucking Bitcoin. All right, move on to the next one. Trust in government goes down. This is so true, right? So trust in government goes down. Knowledge of sound economics, Bitcoin stack. Highly accurate meme. Moving on to the next one. This is by Brecky. This is awesome, right? Engineering fails. Toilet paper, Ethereum. Absolutely awesome. Phil, you're not going to fucking beat this. I'm going to give it a signed copy of a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey the year that he won the Champions League. What about you, Phil?
You just got that delivered?
No, I've had it in my closet, but you tried to one up me. I pulled it out. I'm like, okay.
Oh, God. All right, well, anyways, I was going to give it my Lucio Paletti, Dr. Satoshi's The Orange Pill.
Oh,
that's right. And it's signed by Lucio, by the way.
Oh, that might be better. That might be better in the Bitcoin world, bro. Anyways, Texas Slim, what would you give that meme?
I'm going to give it my hand-drawn avatar that I did myself.
Dude.
It's the original.
He may have won up both of us because that's like original creativity right there.
I've never met someone from Texas that I didn't like, but like not from like the cities, but like from Texas.
Right. From small town Texas. Yes.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
From Dirt Road, Texas. So
what about you, Shishi? What would you give that meme?
So my girlfriend gave me this the other day, and it's like very cliche and corny, but I feel like it's perfect for Paul Krugman. But it says, write your own story. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
But I just saw it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of perfect. So
it is perfect.
That is kind of perfect.
That is. These are excellent scores, bro.
Yeah, these are excellent scores.
Everyone's
good. Well.
Everyone's just trying to pull out like one up one. Each other. I could do it better. I could do it better. But awesome. Anyways, guys, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comment section. Join our Telegram group. Link us some Bitcoin memes to review. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the daily news. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. Get yourself the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the Bitcoin Honey Badger. Look, it's got space for a cold card, really cool stuff. Or the El Salvador Bitcoin Grenade. You can get it in any color. Take advantage of the link down below for 5% off CryptoCloaks.com. All right, so Michael Saylor went on Squawk Box this morning, and there was a lot of signal, and it's in the first minute and a half of the video. And it's another Simply Bitcoin We Told You So moment, because he's saying exactly what we were saying, that DeFi and shitcoins don't have very long to survive. Why? Because regulators can and will go after them. Anyways, let's see what Saylor has to say.
Guys, joining us now is Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy Chairman and CEO. We constantly talk about the regulatory overhang, Michael, and we got some new data points on Wednesday. You know, Republicans and Democrats have different views, but all of it looks like there will be more scrutiny. You continue, can I call you a stacker? MicroStrategy is a stacker. You added, what, 9,000 coins?
Giga stacker. Giga stacker.
You added 9,000 coins. I think you're up to about $7 billion worth. I don't know if I did the math on today's price, but out of your entire market cap of $7.4 billion. For a while, in the mid 60s, everyone was up. Everyone had made money. That's not the case anymore. Would you stack right now? Would you wait for a further pullback? How do you do it?
We're going to keep stacking forever, Joe, forever. Yeah, the issue is crypto's going mainstream. You know, we hit all-time highs last week, and now there's volatility. Inflation's gone mainstream, and so what's causing the volatility? The volatility is driven by exchange leverage, the altcoins, some security tokens, DeFi, wash trading, the novelty of crypto, and the excessive growth, right? And that doesn't surprise me. I think people have been waiting for clarity from regulators, and over the past month, we got a lot of clarity. The report on stablecoin is telling the world that they want stablecoins issued by FDIC-insured banks. The Crenshaw report is telling the world that DeFi as we know it will not continue. The spot ETF denial report is telling the world that the regulators want crypto exchanges to meet national securities exchange rule and standards. And the infrastructure bill is putting into question staking and DeFi. Now, there's one thing that's for certain, Joe. The world wants two things. The world wants a digital dollar, US dollar, and they don't want 100 billion of it. They want 10 trillion of it or 20 trillion. The Chinese want it. The Africans want it. The Asians want it. They want it from an FDIC-insured bank or like. And the world wants a digital asset that's a store of value, and Bitcoin is universally accepted as that common property store of value. So those two things are clear. Everything else is murky. The market's trying to sort out what all...
All right, so enough of that. Let's kind of riff on that a little bit. We fucking told you so about the stable coins. We told you so about DeFi, and we told you so about the fucking crypto. We told you this shit a year ago before Michael Saylor had to say it on Squawk. So subscribe to Simply Bitcoin for more I told you so moments, or we told you so moments. So first thing, and then, okay, and now, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. And Kaiser has actually been pushing Saylor tremendously on that, and I'm actually on the side of Kaiser. I think that Saylor's being strategic when he says what he says about the dollar, about the digital dollar continuing. I don't think that he wants to make enemies with the U.S. government, right? So I think that he's strategically saying this is the continuance of the dollar. I believe, right, I fundamentally believe that this is the end of the fiat dollar as we know it. I think that the dollar is always going to exist, but it's going to be another iteration. But I think that as a store of value, right, I think Bitcoin is just going to take a shit on all of these fiat currencies. And I don't think that Saylor really believes this dollar BS that he's spouting out. I think that he's covering his ass a little bit because I think that specifically, right, and we're going to get to that in the second part of the news segment, I think that governments are starting to realize. Now, what I said yesterday, right, is that it's not that big of an issue when Bitcoin's sitting at $1 trillion market cap. But when Bitcoin hits a $5 to $10 trillion market cap, when it gets on the level of gold, you're going to see the governments that most benefit from the legacy financial system wake up in such a vicious way that, man, move to Texas or Florida, but don't bring your commie vote with you, Phil.
They're going to freak out, Nico. They are going to absolutely freak out. I've been saying this, that the psychological barrier of gold market cap is going to completely melt minds. It is totally going to melt minds. I just want to point out what Saylor was saying. If anybody who is actually listening, he just completely dismantled everybody's shitcoin use cases by politely explaining what the regulators are planning on doing. So I know everybody thinks their shitcoin's going to live and their NFT's going to live and all these things are going to live. They are going to die. They've died before, and all that's left are zombie carcasses. These new ones, they are going to die too.
Which, by the way, we have meticulously covered on this show. We've shown you, literally, this is how stablecoins are going to die. This is how deep. Everything that Saylor was talking about, we covered in real time on Simply Bitcoin, right? So, again, it's not a big surprise to us, but it's nice, again, hearing it from the Giga Man. Anyways, Shishi, what are your thoughts on this?
So I think like Kaiser is right given a long enough time frame, but that's not what Saylor is getting at. There's definitely demand for the US dollar today. That's like quite obvious. There's demand for stable coins in a basket of fiat currencies because when you look at the resources of the world, they're sitting inside of a border that's guarded by a military industrial complex of each of those countries. So you have the US, you have China, and you have all of Asia, right? But just there's definitely huge demand for US goods and services. And a lot of businesses rely on the globalized economy. So they have to keep like some fiat on their balance sheet to pay for their expenses that they don't want to fluctuate, right? And so obviously their treasury reserves could be in Bitcoin or whatever, if they want to have fun staying poor, something else. But, that's sort of like, he's right. There's a huge demand for a more transferable and more digital dollar. There's definitely a demand there because of the natural resources and the way they're controlled. And so I always say, like, given a long enough time frame, like everyone is right, And so I think we're right. It just the time frame might not be so one-to-one. And like just to clarify what you said on the dollar always being around, possibly, but tied to Bitcoin or the hardest money at that time when it does sort of lose 100% of its value. So maybe it takes longer, maybe it takes less long. I don't know. I'm not really a speculator, but those are I feel like they're both right.
Texas Slim, what are your thoughts on the Giga? He what is it, Phil, that you said before? He's stacking fields of coin. He makes me feel poor, bro.
Yeah, no,
9,000 Bitcoin here, and I'm like, bro, come on, dude. Texas Slim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a poor Texas boy. I don't, it makes me feel really poor, but that's okay. I'm in Texas, but I agree with all of you guys. One thing that I want to bring into this fact about shit coins, what I brought up earlier, the only shit coins that are going to survive are the shit coins that cater to the United States government and the globalists that use them to steal your personal space away from you, to where they will value those shit coins in a way where they'll track and trace you, they'll track and trace your food, they'll digitize food. So on that scale, if you're going to play in the shit coin world, that's the only thing that's going to survive. They're going to regulate everything out of the market. They're going to basically cancel all of the altcoins and all this other type of stuff that they don't believe that they can leverage to steal your freedoms away from you. There's only going to be one base layer of value at that time. We know that's going to be Bitcoin. That'll be transitory with the US dollar. We're going to see that play out. And once again, whenever this hits, it's going to hit hard as far as a $5 trillion market cap. When that happens, it's going to melt faces, as Phil said. So, that just get ready for it. Stack your freaking sats, man.
Absolutely. And, take self-custody. I think that's very important.
Yes.
Store your seed properly, leverage the power of multi-sig. Now, I want to kind of double back to what Texas Slim said about the globalist. And again, it's crazy. This happened to us before when we called the Bitcoin, the BSV 51% attack, and then the next day it happened, the 51% attack. Something very similar happened yesterday, but I'm actually going to play you a clip of yesterday's episode and kind of showed you exactly what Hilary said today. Let me pull it up. What's going on. It's not that big of a deal now when Bitcoin is sitting at $1 trillion market cap. But this is going to be all-out warfare when Bitcoin hits a $10 trillion market cap, because it will actually start to become a threat to the way that nation states are used to operating, right? They're used to operating with the power of the money printer. Bitcoin is a direct attack on that. It's a threat to that. And you could kind of guess what they'll do, but this is just the beginning. So I said that yesterday, and a threat to the nation state. And check out what Hilary Clinton had to say today. So this was shout out to Neil Jacobs, right? So let's check out what she has to say, and check out the last words that she uses. Okay, pay attention.
And then one more area that I hope nation states start paying greater.
What did she say? Nation states.
Nation states.
Oh, interesting, huh?
Your attention to is the rise of cryptocurrency, because what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency, for destabilizing nations, perhaps starting with small ones, but going much larger. So when we think about this new environment in which we find ourselves that we've been discussing for the last some minutes, we can't just think about nation states. And then one more area.
Says it twice. Twice.
Disingenuous trash, dude.
See the words. Nation state. Says it twice. And I said the exact same thing. But from the Bitcoiners' perspective, it's going to take power away from them. Now she's taking the position of it's going to no. It's going to destabilize politicians, and it's going to take the money out of your hands, and it's going to give it back to the people. It's not going to destabilize countries. It's going to destabilize what you fucking do in your racket. That's what it's going to destabilize. So this shit that you're hiding behind, it's bullshit. Anyways, Phil?
Never forget, right? It's the Fed Reserve and the government that are undermining, that are actually undermining the country, not Bitcoin. Okay? Bitcoin just, all Bitcoin is doing is helping illustrate it clearly. I said it today in a tweet. That's all it's doing. Because we have Bitcoin, we can see the problem clearly. That's what it's doing.
Texas?
Yeah, Bitcoin. This is what I always tell my family and friends. I tell them, get ready if you're going to go down this. Bitcoin exposes the truth, no matter what you're doing in life. And it's going to expose the truth about you. It's going to expose about any truth or corruption in your life that you've ever been a part of. So what this is showing, and what, Hillary is a freaking distraction. We know that. She is the distraction. She's the figurehead distraction. But they are scared. They're scared because the truth is being exposed. And that's what I love about this. It makes me laugh. I love to see this because, all we're doing is building and creating. And all they're doing is running. We are becoming the distraction. That's beautiful to me.
And I think that was beautifully put. Phil, you had something to say?
Oh, no.
Okay, Shishi, your thoughts?
I mean, Hilary Clinton is a threat to Americans everywhere and the whole world, actually. She makes it unsafe for us to go to certain countries. Her emails say everything. She should be in jail. The fact that she's not in jail just shows the fiat money printing power. And I think that the lifeboat, people getting on the lifeboats are not the reason why the Titanic sunk.
Exactly, right? She's like pointing out, she's like, the lifeboats are the problem. The iceberg is fine. The iceberg, no, don't pay attention to that. But anyways, so we were talking about the distraction, exactly what Texas Slim said. But let's bring you to the fucking front line because we got a hell of a fight in front of us. Anyways, let's check it out. Cynthia Loomis, which is the senator that spoke at the Bitcoin conference, right? And we actually covered this. We covered this lady, okay? So kind of give you a recap of who this lady is. She's a communist. She grew up in a communist country, and she actually released a paper. We dedicated a episode to this paper where she wanted to nationalize the nationalize the banks in the US, make it all the Fed, and she wanted to add a mechanism in there where she could take a haircut out of anybody's bank account as she saw fit, right, to curve inflation. So she wanted to steal from you, and that's the way that they plan to curve inflation. And she also wanted to essentially socialize the stock market. So if the price of something went too high, right, the federal government would be able to kind of step in there and stop that. It absolutely crazy, this lady. Senator Loomis is kind of pushing back. But anyways, let's pull up the article, which has a lot more signal than this tweet, right? It's on Yahoo News. And this kind of covers, we played too many videos today, so I didn't want to play it, but essentially it was a banking committee, right? And right now, to read the article, Saula Amarova, President Joe Biden's embattled nominee for a top banking regulator position. Check this out. This is, remember, Hillary Clinton is the noise. This is the actual person who
like, again, it's not a violent battle, but this is the person who is in charge, who's actually, this is who we're going to clash with. But anyways, sketched out the possibility of a scary scenarios emerging in cryptocurrency, but faced a mix of skepticism and agreement from senators on her views. During her appearance before the Senate Banking Committee on Thursday, Omarova, who is being vetted to be the next comptroller of the currency, which regulates the majority of the nation's banks, voiced concerns that large tech companies could control the payment infrastructure in the U.S. Here's the key word. Pay attention to this. If private digital currencies are allowed to thrive. Bitcoin is the most public open ledger on the face of the fucking planet. Anybody could mine Bitcoin. Anybody. You don't need any. It doesn't care about your race. Doesn't care where you're born. The US dollar does, right? The US banking system does, but Bitcoin does not. So this private shit, that's rhetoric and it's bullshit. Potentially displacing the value of the US dollar. That's exactly what it is. She's right there. I'm struggling with your views about digital assets. Cynthia Lummis knows exactly what she's doing, but she's being strategic. Senator Cynthia Lummis told Omarova at the hearing, when asked by the senator whether she only believes in fiat currency, Omarova replied, no. My concern is we may end up in a situation where a large company, like a big tech company, might control of all of the infrastructure through which the money that every American and every American business uses in the daily moves. Do you see the false narrative here? She's not talking about, because she can't. She can't defend that. The way that Bitcoin is mined and the way that anybody can mine Bitcoin, she can't say that, right? It's more open than the US dollar is today. The US dollar is a privately issued fucking currency that's shoved down the mouth of citizens, right? It's like, you have to use this, right? We control it. Bitcoin is open, it's public, it's transparent. We know how it's issued. So again, a lot of rhetoric, a lot of BS. Hillary was the signal. This lady is who we're going to clash against, of course, in a non-violent manner. But this is the battlefront. This is the battle to come. Like we said, we are single issue voters on this show. We vote for Democrat or Republican, whoever supports Bitcoin, whoever stands for Bitcoin, right? Clearly. And again, right now it's not that big of a deal, like we've been saying so many times, but when it hits 5 trillion, when it hits 10 trillion, it's going to be a hell of a fight, and I suspect it's going to be a political one as well. Phil?
Yeah, no, a couple of points. Visa and MasterCard own over 90% of the payment rails. So this nonsense of one tech company owning, like owning the infrastructure, look at Google. Look at Amazon.
It's not a threat. It's not a threat to them.
No, of course, these are not threats,
important.
but you get what I mean? Like it's this cherry picking that they do, right? So, and the other thing is this. I know that everyone wants to pretend that this isn't the case, but unfortunately, the Federal Reserve, okay, is a private entity. It is a private corporation. It is not run or owned by the U.S. government, okay? So this nonsense narrative that they try to create where Bitcoin is this private, this private monetary system. No. It's like you said, it is the most public monetary system. Anybody can check it. Like you said, anybody can mine it that has access to the electricity and the resources. There's nothing wrong with that. None of us can. I can't open a bank. Nico can't open a bank, right? Like, it's ridiculous. Walmart tried to open a bank for years and the government made them quit. So this is psychotic and it's scary. And don't get me wrong, but like, it's also kind of weird that they're getting this person with her background to come into the government to handle the money in this current time. I don't know. I just feel like this is all just not a coincidence. Like it just isn't.
There are no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences. Anyways, Texas Slim, what are your thoughts?
We've been following her. My team has been following her for a while. I just actually retweeted something out. What this is a way to stack deception upon deception. They're trying to recreate an economy because the US dollar is failing, everything we know. One thing this is leading to, and people are going to have to start paying attention to what this really means, is something called stakeholder capitalism that's going to the impact bond market, human capital bond markets. And what they're going to do with the human capital bond markets is basically create some new hedge funds, just like they did during the housing crisis. This is their agenda. That's what they're shooting for. And, they're going to do that in certain ways that people aren't understanding right now. But I think that she's an institutional academic communist is what she is. And so I think they're testing the waters with her a bit, to see if she can even get through. I don't think she'd even get through. I think, she's going to catch a lot of heat, but the idea is going to stay there, and they're going to keep on pushing it. They're going to find out how they can get that idea through, no matter what puppet they have up there, because she sounds like a fifth grader. There's a recording actually I heard on a certain other podcast of her when she was proposing this. It's pretty fascinating. I'll see if I can find it and I'll repost it sometime. But yeah, this is all about the stakeholder capitalism, the stacking deception upon deception, false value on top of false value.
Absolutely. We've covered this tremendously. We've covered the World Economic Forum, Klaus
Right.
Schwab, his ideas, that's what stakeholder capitalism is. That's just a very nice way of saying communism, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
So it's just essentially very wealthy, powerful people that bought off politicians, all created by the Cantillon effect, I might add, trying to centralize power more and more and more and more. We've played you this video. Why is it that every single politician in the UK, in New Zealand, right, in the United States, they're all saying the same words, build back better. Or Klaus Schwab says, like we've played you on the video, I like to call it the Great Reset, right? What is going on? Why are they all using the same words? Anyway, Shishi, what are your closing thoughts?
I think she uses the word private very specifically here. And I think Bitcoin has the word public on its as one of its traits. So I think that's like, I remember I called you like a few years ago and I was like, hey, I actually think like Bitcoin is the only thing that will survive like the government. And you're like, why? And I'm like, well, like I used to be, hating on Bitcoin because of its privacy issues. And then I realized that like those things can be dealt with outside of the main protocol. And that you need a public base layer for the world to operate on so that it's easily verifiable. And it also makes it, though, so that there's nothing you can really say bad about it. There's no person you can, go and lean on. So unless they're going to come to all of our houses, we'll see about that. Some people will not make it out. Okay. Because this country's, like you said, right, population has more guns than the government. And I just like, you can see that even like, when the money breaks, everything breaks. And so do people's logic. And there's no logic to the government's movements these days. There's no logic to even gender these days or any of those things, so you just see, there's just no logic. Like, I don't mind. Anyone can do whatever they want. Like, I'm a voluntarist, a consensualist, but I fail to see any logic in anybody's thinking when I'm going to Normie land. And like, I accept everyone for who they are, but I don't accept just commandments. I have to see the logic to like agree with it. I have to see that I'm a facts-based human being. And I think like Bitcoin land is just that. And these people, they twist the facts and they write their own story all the time. And you see it here,
Absolutely. And I think you said it really well. And just, look, we've been saying this many times, guys. In the U.S., just how it's going to play out is the states that have, vested interest in Bitcoin, right? Like Texas, Florida, Wyoming, Montana, et cetera, they are going to protect it tooth and nail. We also suspect that just as the marijuana laws, right? Marijuana is made legal on a state level before it was made legal on a federal level. I suspect that might also happen, right? With Texas, Wyoming, especially as the federal government starts to crack down. We already see Ted Cruz coming out with fire saying trying to protect Bitcoin. It's because he's trying to protect his incentives, right? Because Texas is, you saw Greg Abbott saying we want Texas to become Bitcoin mining country, right? So again, right? So this is going to be a hell of a fight, but I am bullish on the U.S. because the First, Second Amendment and the sovereignty of each individual states, and that kind of creates a better flag theory, and I think we're going to see that play out. But anyways, Phil, there was Shishi.
If I can just add one more thing, you said First and Second Amendment. Well, Bitcoin is plain text, and it's protected by the First Amendment, which then you have to protect using the Second and Third and Fourth Amendments. So
beautifully said. I think the Fourth Amendment is just toilet paper at this point, which is unreasonable search and seizure. They're totally, with the $600 IRA, they just don't care at this point.
Just go around and ask people what the first two amendments, you'll get like a 99% like success rate. Then ask them the third and fourth, and they'll be like, wait, what? And it's like only the fourth one, like it's only the third. It's not like the 50th one, right? True. It's like third and fourth. There isn't even 50, design, but you know what I mean?
It's by design. And to be honest with you, I think, public schools specifically, right? They've been kind of, organized in a way where it's like they're trying to get something done. I just don't want to get too political. Anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. All right, everyone. The software releases are brought to you by CipherSafe.io. Get yourself a Cipher wheel. This is a steel wheel that you can back up your seed onto. It's fireproof, waterproof, pet-proof, tamper-evident. Check it out down below. All right, we've got LND version 0.13.4 beta that was released. It is down below in the show notes. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. It was a little long today, but we had a fuck ton to cover, but definitely provided a lot of signal in there if you paid attention. But anyways, I want to give a shout out to our awesome, sovereign, toxic Bitcoin guests. First, Texas Slim, give him a follow at Modern T-Man. And of course, Shishi. I've known this guy fucking forever. Definitely give him a follow at Shishi21M on Twitter. Of course, guys, if you enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the pleb perspective, you're definitely going to want to do that because there's a lot of shit going on. And the catastrophic fails, definitely consider subscribing. We'll see you tomorrow, guys, for another... No. We won't. We'll see you Monday for another episode of Simply Bitcoin.
Paul Krugman will never stop being wrong about Bitcoin and everything else.